Hello everyone, Johnny Hurricane here from GamersHeroes.com, and for today's preview we will be going over what's to come for Ratchet and Clank, A Rift Apart. Let's get started. Ratchet and Clank is an action-adventure game, third-person shooter with a heavy emphasis on some platforming, where you generally play as a Lombax named Ratchet, and his buddy is the robot named Clank. Obviously in this game, that's going to be a little different. While you will be still playing as Ratchet and Clank, you will also be playing as series newcomer, the female Lombax from a different dimension named Rivet. Now, to my knowledge, to be clear, I've played and beat probably 3 Ratchet and Clanks. I played 2016 but didn't beat it. I believe this one follows after Into the Nexus, which is one I did not beat. But to my knowledge, Ratchet has always been the only Lombax in the universe. Rivet is from a different universe, so she's probably the only Lombax there as well. When the story begins, you are in Megapolis, and Dr. Nefarious is up to some no good, basically. And, you're the hero, so you gotta go stop him. Now, while this is occurring, there's a lot of dimensional rifts opening up throughout the city. And by the end of it, both you and Clank are taken away to another universe. When Ratchet and Clank arrive, well, Ratchet and Clank are actually separated. Ratchet arrives in Nefarious' city, learns that he is the Emperor, and things are obviously way different here, but he also notices that there is a second Lombax. So he's interested in figuring out what that is, but priority number 1, of course, is finding his good buddy, Clank. And of course, you're going to have to search through the city and other worlds to find them. While traveling through the city, you can kind of see that this is a much more vibrant world. Ratchet's always been pretty colorful, but obviously with the power of the PlayStation 5, they can do a lot more than they used to be able to do, and there's a lot going on. I had read actually in a different preview that due to this being PlayStation 5 exclusive, they could really amp up the amount of NPCs and enemies on screen at once, and not just the same enemies, but different variations of enemies and creatures. That's the big problem when it comes to the older consoles, is the limitations of RAM. You could not necessarily have a lot of different enemy varieties on the screen at once. You also couldn't just have them, floating around either. That was always a restriction that's been a bit alleviated at this point. Anyways, Ratchet travels through the city, runs into a weapon broker who thinks Ratchet is actually Rivet, because I'm guessing this person has not met Rivet before, and if there's only one Wombax, well, Ratchet's a Wombax. They chat, and Ratchet just kind of is like, okay. He learns that there's a resistance here against the Emperor, and before he can get any further, though, Rivet runs by getting chased by some security forces, and he sees that Ratchet is on Rivet's back, and is like, oh, I gotta find out where she's at. And then he gets the information on how to get off the planet. However, that is not going to be simple. So that will be your goal with Ratchet, is to ultimately find Ratchet and meet up with this new Lombax, Rivet, and of course, I'm assuming take out Emperor Nefarious. But as Rivet, the first thing you kind of do is, after escaping the Nefarious city, is you go to help one of your buddies, and this is kind of where you run into the first enemies and the first an old gang from the older games, not one I knew, but there's these flying enemies. I really don't like flying enemies, for the record, but in third-person shooters, I can deal with it. So she lands on a different planet. Ratchet, Clank, Rivet are separated for at least the beginning of the game. Alright, so let's talk about a few new mechanics. The most obvious one, of course, is the rifts. The rift tether, where you basically hook shot into this purplish, whatever, orange, blue, whatever color the rift is, you warp yourself into it, and then you are in a new position. This is more like pulling the world to you than you going to the world. It's a little bit bizarre, but it works very well. It's going to be great for flanking, getting secrets, getting behind enemies, of course, and just straight up dodging fire. If you're getting pummeled, then maybe you want to get to higher ground. Rift tether. That said, I'm very much looking forward to really, really good players learning how to use this. A lot of the times when I see it in the trailers and everything, they just kind of they get behind the enemy, but their back is also to the enemy, so then they got to turn around. Ideally, you'd want to get behind them when you're already looking at them and just start clipping them. But we'll see what happens. There's also rifts that you don't necessarily pull yourself into. They pull you in, sort of like a black hole, and you go to a different planet These are sort of like set piece and cinematic moments from what I could tell, like boss fights, right? When you're fighting a boss, a rift opens and you guys are on a different planet fighting in like dinosaur land or something like that. It's a cool concept. Hopefully it's not annoying, but yeah. I'm looking forward to what really good players are going to be able to do with it. Ratchet and Clank has always been known for really one thing. I mean, there's a lot of good things in Ratchet and Clank, but the one thing when you talk about Ratchet and Clank is the weapons. First and foremost, they did mention a ton about the adaptive triggers and how they're going to be so great. I'll be honest, Call of Duty turned it off, Hitman turned it off, and Returnal, I turned it off. I do not like adaptive triggers. I'm going to give it a shot in this game, but this is something that I need to feel to be like, yeah, it's good or it's bad. You can talk how cool it is all day, but if it's more annoying than anything else, I'm just going to turn it off. Anyways, new weapons, returning weapons. What do we got? Obviously, we got our cool little hammer that we bash people in boxes with, but one of the new weapons that I really liked was it's like you throw it out, it's like a grass grenade or a fertilizer grenade or something. You throw it out and it shoots like a stream of vines, and it will basically lock an enemy down, and then you can clip them from there. It's more of a control weapon than a damage weapon, but it's something that I really liked. Another one is called the Ricochet, and it pretty much is exactly what it does. You shoot, and then it kind of like glides around the enemy, like almost like doing an X, like going slicing down them. So if you click it right, when it hits them the first time, like let's say it's going from above and it hits them. When it hits them, you hit the button, it swoops back up, goes back down again. And as long as you can keep chaining and hitting that button, I'm guessing there's probably a limit, but you can keep attacking it. Once the enemy's dead, I'm going to assume it disappears. But if you could use it the entire time, I guess you could just smoke a boss without any trouble, because you could just keep ricocheting them. There's also returning weapons. There is the burst pistol, which we see quite a bit. The shotgun, though I think it's a double barrel shotgun. I don't remember if it was like that in the previous games. And then there was a lightning gun, just chain lightning. The only thing I don't know, there's other guns as well. I haven't seen them all, or none of us have seen them all. I don't know if this is like a situation of like Rivet gets certain weapons and Ratchet gets certain weapons, or if they just both get to hold on to them. I know they combine cash or bolts, but I don't know about weapons. So of course the weapons will be able to be upgraded, that's there, but there's also armor in this game. Armor sets that provide you different buffs and different abilities. So that's something else you'll have to look out for. And of course, equip. I'm all for more customization options and of course more armor. I'm an RPG guy, so this type of stuff is what I like to hear. There's experience and levels and a health bar that has a number, so I'm guessing when you level up you get more HP. They haven't shown like skills or anything, so I don't know if you get anything else from leveling up. You also go to different planets, and these planets, they're not always self-contained, but most of them have their own story, their own mission that you'll have to accomplish. They did go out of their way to say some of these worlds are pretty big and they're open to explore, so you'll be able to... So sort of like, I guess what I want to say is sort of like the old Uncharted 4, like when you get to Madagascar, right? Most of it's linear, but then you get to that spot where you get that kind of more open area. I would not assume a lot of this world is going to be completely open. There will be spots to explore, but I think a lot of it's going to be typical Ratchet and Clank levels with a few open worlds that are going to be fun to explore. With that said, there are pocket dimensions to find, which seem to have little challenges and little bonuses to find. There's also hidden areas with bonus loots and additional challenges. There are also Clank puzzles, which I always remember this one that the last one that I beat. It was very difficult. Those things are hard, but they're very rewarding. So I'm glad they're returning. Arena challenges, and of course the golden bolts, baby. Golden bolts, one of the best collectibles. I love golden bolts. A couple other things I want to mention. There are new platforming mechanics like the air dash and the normal dash, wall run, which I think was actually in the old games, but it's nice to have. And of course, hook shot. So when you're not tethering to stuff, you can actually like hook almost like Spider-Man. Oh, these guys made the Spider-Man games. Convenient. And the last thing I want to mention, Rivet has a robot arm. Not sure if that's going to get any upgrades or anything like that. That'd be pretty cool. But no word on that. It's just something I noticed when the gameplay was going on, that her arm was metal. And they kind of, the way they like made it stand out, I have to feel like there's some sort of upgrades. Maybe that's where her hook shot comes from or something like that. But I'm looking forward to that as well. One last thing to touch on, there is going to be a photo mode, and there's going to be a ton of accessibility options. They showed off colorblind mode and a bunch of other options. They went through them real fast, but these guys are really good at it, so there'll be a lot of options. Anyways, Ratchet and Clank, A Rift Apart, launching June 11th, PlayStation 5 exclusive. That's going to do it for me. Hope you enjoyed the preview. If you liked what you saw, got what you needed, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Later, Gators.